Hi everyone, just getting ready to do some ploughing. You saw me getting the plough ready in the last video, and right in the field now, just getting ready to have a go. We've I said in the previous video about that we have sprayed around the headland to this field, and there's a bit of charlock here and some waste corn. We haven't grazed it with a sheep, so we sort of feel that when they graze corn arish like this, they end up with getting mud stuck between their feet, and it causes sort of extra feet problems. We've got enough without creating more, so we tend not to graze it, and they don't really like grazing, or our sheep don't seem to like grazing it anyway, so we tend not to bother with that, topping it off and then just plough it in really. So the plough will finish out here where it's clean, so there shouldn't be any trash showing, hopefully. So I'll make a start and get in away from the headlands and see what it buries all this trash like. I can't see it being a problem really. We got the topper on the other tractor. It's only 6 feet wide, but it's all right. It's fully offset. At the time we were looking at a Teagle 8-foot topper that went behind the tractor, and we thought, well, the tractor that's used on, which is that one there, has got 12-inch back tyres, so we thought it was better to buy a brand new 6-foot fully offset rather than the Teagle 8-foot behind the wheels, because obviously 2 feet of wheel width brought it back down to 6 foot anyway. So although you were topping 8 feet, you ended up with the wheel marks in it, so we thought it was better to have no wheel marks but go slightly narrower, and we've been well pleased. We've had it quite a few years, and it does a good job. So yeah, you can see what he's done here, and when he moves off again in a minute, I'll show you what it's doing. Yeah, topper does a good job. The charlock, we were just talking about that while I wasn't filming, but the charlock, apart from that, there isn't much here really. There's not really any grass weeds to worry about, a few thistles, but yeah, charlock particularly bad around this area. We sort of we don't have any problem with it in our corn because we spray for it, but it is always a problem. And my grandfather, he's passed away now, but he always said about the charlock, you know, it was a real curse in the corn crops because they couldn't get rid of it. And he can remember that when it was just after the end of the Second World War, they came to one of the fields here, or that particular field isn't with this farm anymore, but they came in there with an old, it must have been an early Land Rover with a tank on it, and that was the first time he'd actually seen any crop spraying done, and they sprayed the charlock off. And he always said he could remember that within hours the charlock was keeled over, and they well, I thought it was marvellous when it happened really, but the sprays now, it's an easy thing to kill, but so it's not a problem, but it was back then. Right, let's get this plough going and see what we can do. I know I'm well, we like Massey Ferguson, so that's what we've got, but it does look smart, I reckon. Right, we're ploughing, and it's going nicely. We had 24 metres over against the hedge over the far side that had been sprayed, and I think 12 metres at the top, and all the rest of the way around was 24 metres at the bottom. So So the odd little bit of green, it's just throwing up on top some of the stuff that was has been cut off, but generally it's burying it well. I have slowed down a little bit from where I was ploughing on the headland where it was sprayed off. But no, it's ideal. It's obviously a benefit as well for this all this green to be ploughed in, I guess, rather than sort of spraying it off and doing it that way. There'll be those of you watching this that possibly do use different techniques, min-till, or some using zero till and strip till, all sorts of different methods really, but it's looking likely that Roundup will have its license renewed again, so there's no issue with Roundup, but we just sort of try to reduce our usage of it as much as we can. And you know, we could, the sort of farming we're doing here, and with ploughing and everything, we could farm without using Roundup at all. Well, this sort of proves it really, just ploughing all this trash. And as I say, there's nothing here really that needs to be killed that's going to affect the next crop or anything like that, so it's all clean, and it'll be a clean start. The weather now will break it down a little bit before we want to drill it. We'll be aiming to plant this with spring barley in mid-March, hopefully, if we get favourable weather. That's sort of the optimum time down here really. As I say, I don't want to sort of do too many ploughing videos, but you know, it is a job that I enjoy doing, and just trying to do it as best I can really. Take pride in it and want it to look nice. Try not to plough too deep as well. Probably only ploughing 6 inches deep. Sort of the soils aren't that deep here, so 6 inches plenty really. It's a job to have good full days on this sort of work at the moment because of so much feeding up and stuff like that. Cattle to bed up and feed and all those sort of jobs. That sort of takes up a lot of our time in the mornings. So it's nice to be able to get out on a tractor again really. We've because of the weather, we've not had much opportunity to do any tractor work. We've got, well, it's only really ploughing to do and hedge cutting, so try and have a go at the hedge cutting in a day or two. It's looking pretty dry now for probably the next 10 days, the weather forecast, so like I say, we'll have a go at some hedge cutting. We've got one more field to plough after this one, but that one will need to dry up a bit more because it is quite wet where that one is. But we're quite lucky really, because although I've been saying how wet it is, it has been wet, but we are on good free draining soils. The only sort of issue with that is in the summer it does dry out, as you saw in some of my videos back in the summer how dry it was when I flew the drone when we were combining. But a couple of dry days it can be, you know, you can be travelling on the ground without doing any damage. This is, you know, these are good conditions for ploughing and it's ideal really. These are some of our slightly heavier fields on this side. North facing land. It's they're nice arable fields, but they're on a slope, and yeah, they can be a bit cold, and crops will take a bit of a hammering out here in the winter. But the winter barley next door is looking all right. It's looking quite green, really. They're coming through the winter quite well. We just got to hope we get enough rain still. So I know we complain about the rain, but we do need it, and I hope we get enough now to top everything up, so we get enough to grow our crops of silage in the early summer. Skimming it off nicely. So just throwing the odd little bit up on top. Probably if I slowed down a little bit it would stop that, but I don't. Why just throw it there a little bit. I'll leave it there for a minute, and I'll do a bit more of a progress report as we move